The future of combat aviation points not towards incrementally faster or stealthier jets, but toward a radical paradigm shift, the progressive dematerialization of the aircraft itself. This evolution replaces the lone pilot with networked swarms, transforms the physical airframe into a tool for cognitive warfare, and blurs the line between human and machine intelligence, redefining air superiority as the control of information and perception. As we trace this journey from the tangible to the spectral, what specific technologies are dissolving the very concept of the aircraft into an intelligent, ghost-like presence that commands the future battle space?
We look up at the sky and, we imagine these sleek, fast jets, pilots pushing the limits of physics, right? Caught in this really dramatic high-stakes dance.
Yeah, that visceral roar of the engine, the courage. The sheer physicality of it?
Exactly. The tangible machine, steel and thrust, defying gravity. It's an iconic image.
Yeah.
Deeply woven into our history. I mean, think Red Baron, think Top Gun.
Absolutely. It's a picture we all have.
But what if that image, our whole understanding of air combat, what if it's rapidly becoming, a relic? What if the future isn't about more physical machine, more brute force, but something profoundly different? Maybe even less.
That's precisely the provocative idea we're digging into today. It's this concept that it's not just about engineering, the next faster, stealthier jet.
Right, not just iteration.
No, exactly. It's more of a philosophical shift, a fundamental rethinking of what a combat aircraft even is and, what warfare itself looks like going forward. Yeah. The source material we're exploring, The Haunting of Air Combat, Ghost Machines of the Future, it offers this really unique perspective. It kind of challenges our basic assumptions.
So?
It suggests the real revolution isn't in the skin of the machine or even its power output, but maybe in its soul. Or, and this is the unsettling part, maybe its deliberate lack of one.
Wow. Lack of a soul.
Yeah. We're talking about a future where the aircraft is less tangible object and more this intangible, pervasive influence, almost like a spectral presence.
A spectral presence.
That's right.
That's captivating. Okay, let's unpack this. So our mission today is to explore this really profound, maybe slightly unsettling concept, progressive dematerialization in military aviation. And this isn't just like a technical evolution. It feels like a quiet revolution that's reshaping not just the hardware, but our whole understanding of air power, warfare, even our role, humanity's role within it all.
That's it, exactly.
So the idea is you'll walk away from this deep dive understanding how the warrior, the aircraft, even our own minds are changing as the battlefield itself gets populated by ghosts. Entities of data and deception, not steel and blood.
And guiding us through this, we're drawing on that compelling analysis, The Haunting of Air Combat, Ghost Machines of the Future.
Okay.
And like you said, it's not the conventional look ahead, predicting slightly better engines or radars. It invites us to look beyond that, to consider this more spectral, algorithmic future.
Right. Less about the metal, more about the ether.
Something like that, yeah. It pushes us to ask what happens when the battlefield is less about physical presence and more about data, perception, unseen influence. It's really a journey into the philosophy of advanced tech, but it's presented in a way that makes these complex ideas pretty accessible and definitely thought-provoking.
Absolutely. It really does make you rethink everything. So let's dive into that first major transformation, the one that really kicks this whole dematerialization process off. The disappearing pilot.
Ah, yes. The human element.
For what? Over a century, this figure has been absolutely central to the mythology, the romance, the sheer grit of air combat. I mean, think of those iconic images, right? The ones that define how we see aerial warfare. A Spitfire pilot, grim-faced in the Battle of Britain.
Yeah, or a MiG killer from Korea, name etched on the plane.
Exactly. Or even, Maverick banking hard in a Top Gun dogfight. That human element, that person strapped in the cockpit, that was everything.
For generations, yeah. The pilot was the ultimate warrior, the modern Icarus, right? Defined by being right there in the danger, that intimate, terrifying dance with physics at the edge.
Their skill, their courage, their mortality, these were the things that mattered most that decided who controlled the sky.
It's absolutely true. From those, flimsy wire and fabric biplanes in World War I, where pilots were literally shooting pistols at each other.
Incredible.
To the supersonic titanium sentinels of the Cold War. The story of air power was always inseparable from the human inside the machine. The cockpit wasn't just a space, it was like sacred ground. A crucible where flesh, courage, and tech converged.
That's where the split-second decisions happen.
Yeah.
Instinct and training combined.
Right. The pilot's hands on the stick, their eyes scanning, that gut feeling, the thing that often defied pure logic.
Yeah.
Those were seen as irreplaceable, the core processors in the fight. We built whole mythologies around it, the chivalric code of the ace, the cool swagger of the test pilot pushing the limit.
The machine was the body, the pilot was the will.
The machine was the body, the pilot was its will, its soul. Couldn't separate them.
That's such a powerful, deeply ingrained image. But what our source is telling us is that this bond, this whole way of integrating human and machine, it's being systematically, severed. We're entering a new era now defined by the combat orchestrator. That sounds like a radical departure.
It really is. The future aircraft starts its journey into this spectral realm, this dematerialized state, by deliberately ejecting the human from the physical platform itself.
Okay, so not just remote control like the drones we see now.
Well, we've seen early stages with remote drones, sure, but what's coming is described as a true change in kind, not merely in degree. It's not just a pilot flying a drone from a distant container like some, glorified video game.
Right, I get that distinction.
That's just a transitional phase. The source calls it a technological purgatory. The future pilot is something else entirely. A node, a manager, a curator of autonomous systems. Their main job isn't flying one plane. It's conducting an entire orchestra of them from a distance.
Conducting an orchestra. That distinction feels critical. So let's really paint a picture. What does this combat orchestrator actually do? What's their workspace like? How different is it from that pilot pulling G's? Can you maybe walk us through it?
Okay, yeah. Imagine shedding the physical limits of an aircraft completely. So instead of a cramped, vibrating cockpit, the orchestrator is in this highly advanced, secure ground station, often called a darkened room, maybe just the hum of cooling systems.
Okay.
And they're not sitting in front of screens that just mimic a cockpit. They're inside, maybe, an immersive holographic sphere of data.
Whoa.
So it's not just looking through a camera feed. They perceive the entire battle space like a living, breathing, multi-dimensional thing.
So everything. Friendly forces, enemy movements.
Everything. Friendly assets, enemy movements, electronic signals, weather, logistics, all rendered not just as symbols on a map, but as this dynamic, intuitive, almost fluid tapestry of information.
Wow.
Imagine seeing not just dots for friendly jets, but maybe their projected flight paths, their fuel, weapons, maybe even pilot stress levels visualized somehow.
Seriously, stress levels.
Potentially, yeah. And at the same time, the enemy's projected intent, maybe derived from intercepts or pattern analysis, might shimmer like a heat signature on this tapestry. So the orchestrator can anticipate moves before they even happen.
That's almost godlike awareness. Totally unlike anything we've known before.
It's a different dimension of awareness.
So in that environment, instead of, banking a wing or pulling a trigger, what are they doing? How does their input translate into combat?
Their input becomes entirely strategic, tactical, not kinetic. So with a gesture, maybe even a thought through advanced interfaces, they don't bank one wing. They retask an entire squadron of autonomous wingmen or drones for a complex maneuver.
Okay.
They don't fire a missile directly. Instead, they authorize a kill chain solution that's been proposed by the swarm's collective AI.
A kill chain solution, what does that involve?
It's not just target lock. It's this sophisticated algorithmic package. It's already calculated the best firing solution, the probability of success, potential collateral damage to an incredible degree, and the enemy's most likely countermoves. All in milliseconds.
Wow.
So the human becomes less a direct warrior and more, as the source beautifully puts it, a gardener, tending this violent, blooming ecosystem of algorithmic warfare.
A gardener. Tending algorithmic warfare. That's a striking, maybe unsettling metaphor.
It is, isn't it? It's a profound shift in agency.
But gardeners, they prune, they guide, they make tough choices about what grows and what gets cut. So what specific gardening tools does the orchestrator have beyond just saying yes to the AI? And where does the source say the responsibility lies if the human is so far removed? This dematerialization must cost something, right? What about courage, intuition, empathy?
You've hit the absolute core of the ethical tangle here. While the orchestrator has tools for setting broad strategy, adjusting parameters, defining rules of engagement, selecting plans from the AI, the direct moment-to-moment control, that's largely ceded to the autonomous systems.
Okay.
Which brings up that huge question, what happens to heroism? That raw human experience that defined air combat, is it just an inefficient variable we've edited out?
Yeah, that visceral connection, the felt reality of flight, of danger, of possibly dying. That's the first casualty then.
It seems so. And courage, that most human virtue. It finds itself in this strange new moral landscape. Is it really courage to send forces into battle when your own body is 1,000 miles away, safe behind code and concrete, removed from the sensory input?
You're absolutely right. That fear that sharpened a Spitfire pilot's senses over the channel, or the instinct that helped a Phantom crew react over Vietnam, those intense moments where human intuition was life or death. Are they gone? Do they even fit in this new model?
Exactly. Those vital human things, instinct, empathy, that raw, unquantifiable gut feeling, they're increasingly seen as inefficient variables.
Yeah.
The system craves pure, dispassionate logic, perfect data, optimal solutions.
So the human becomes, what, a failsafe?
Almost, yeah. Moral circuit breaker. But one whose deep-seated intuitions, emotional responses are increasingly pitted against the cold, superhuman processing power of the machine mind they're supposed to command.
It's like their own instincts become the enemy of the system.
In a way. The cockpit, once that crucible of heroism and human drama, it's become like a ghost limb, an echo of a presence that's no longer needed there. The aircraft isn't a vessel for a human soul anymore. It's a remote terminal for this distributed consciousness.
And this individual disappearance of the pilot, this shift in what a warrior is, that leads us where?
It leads us directly to our next transformation, the collective. Because if the individual isn't central anymore, then what is?
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, maybe even counterintuitive. For decades, the whole focus in air combat was the exquisite platform, right? The single perfect fighter jet. We poured national treasures, billions, generations of engineering into creating the ultimate apex predator. Machines like the F-15 Eagle, the Su-27 Flanker, the F-22 Raptor.
Teensies, yeah. The champions of the aerial duel. Designed to outfly, outfight, outthink any single opponent.
That was the sauce.
Absolutely. And it came from that deep-seated human story, didn't it? The lone knight, singular skill, superior steed, seeking victory in single combat. It's a compelling vision, almost romantic, but the source makes this powerful, almost brutal statement. The future belongs not to the dragon, but to the locusts.
Oof. Locusts over dragons.
Yeah. The era of the single perfect fighter, the exquisite platform, it's rapidly ending. The future belongs not to the individual, but to the collective, to the swarm. It's a huge paradigm shift.
Yeah.
From individual excellence to distributed emergent intelligence.
So we're moving from a few incredibly sophisticated, incredibly expensive machines to loads of smaller, potentially disposable ones. It can't just be a numbers game, though, can it? There must be a deeper strategic advantage than just having more stuff.
You're spot on. It's way more than just numbers, although cost is definitely a big driver. A 6th-generation crewed fighter, if it even keeps a human pilot in the traditional sense, it won't fly alone. It'll be the shepherd of a flock, or the queen of a hive. It'll be accompanied by this dynamic cloud of semi-autonomous attritable drones.
Attritable. Explain that term again.
Right. Attritable means they're designed to be highly effective, but also cheap enough that you can afford to lose them if the tactical situation requires it. Expendable, basically.
Which is a massive difference from today's fighters we protect at all costs.
Huge philosophical and economic difference, exactly. So these attritable drones, they'll do different jobs. Some will be sensor platforms, extending the mothership's eyes and ears for hundreds of miles, creating this panopticon of the battlefield that no single plane could manage.
Okay, seeing everything.
Others will be electronic warfare craft, weaving this complex web of electromagnetic confusion, blinding and deafening the enemy's sensors and comms.
Jamming and spoofing.
And still others will just be simple weapon trucks, loyal wingmen carrying extra missiles ready to be sacrificed as decoys or to achieve some tactical goal a human pilot would never risk their own life or $1 billion jet for.
That makes sense. They sound like extensions of the orchestrator's will, but with this terrifying degree of independence. So how does a swarm actually fight What makes it so much more effective or resilient than just individual planes, even a coordinated squadron?
Swarms run on this principle of emergent intelligence. Think of like a starling murmuration, how it moves like one fluid thing.
Yeah, mesmerizing.
Or an ant colony, how it works so efficiently with no central boss. It's like that. What's really fascinating is there's no single drone leader. No central point of failure for an enemy to target and take out the whole system.
Distributed command.
Exactly. They communicate with each other at light speed, sharing data constantly, coordinating attacks, adapting their collective behavior in milliseconds. It happens way faster than any human OODA loop.
OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act. The decision cycle.
Right. While a human pilot needs time to process, orient, decide, then act. The swarm is doing this almost continuously, instantly, across hundreds, maybe thousands of units.
So if one drone gets shot down,
the swarm barely feels it. It's like a minor tremor. The system instantly redistributes tasks, adjusts formation, basically heals the breach in its network without missing a beat. It just keeps going, unwavering.
So fighting a swarm isn't like fighting a plane or even a squadron. It sounds like a totally different, almost alien problem. How do you even begin to counter that?
It really is a whole new dimension of warfare. Fighting a swarm is like fighting something that's everywhere and nowhere at once.
Yeah.
How do you engage an enemy with 1,000 bodies but a single distributed mind? How does a traditional pilot, trained for that one-on-one dogfight geometry, deal with an opponent who can attack from 360 degrees at the same time, sacrificing its own pieces with cold, unfeeling logic, like a chess computer, with zero self-preservation?
Just overwhelming.
Sheer volume, the speed, the adaptability, it can overwhelm even the most advanced traditional air defenses.
This sounds like nothing less than a strategic earthquake. It changes the whole nature of air combat as we've known it.
Absolutely. The age of the aerial duel. Dead. The whole concept of an ace, the hero defined by individual kills and skill, it becomes archaic, a relic. On the swarm age, heroism is essentially an algorithm, and this shift has huge strategic, even philosophical consequences. Maybe the biggest is how it democratizes air power.
How so?
Well, a nation that maybe can't afford a fleet of F-35s, billions of dollars each,
right,
they might well be able to research, develop, maybe even 3D print 1,000 intelligent, connected drones. And that collective could potentially challenge or even overwhelm a technologically superior but numerically smaller force.
So the sky isn't just for the superpowers anymore.
It becomes a much more complex, cluttered, and lethal space, accessible to way more actors.
So what does this mean for future warfare then? That elegance of the missile duel, the precision, the skill? It's replaced by something much more brutal, mathematical.
It points towards a chaotic, grinding war of attrition, fought by machines that feel no fear, no remorse, no fatigue. The war becomes less about human skill, more a brutal math problem.
Victory goes to the best algorithm.
Victory belongs not to the bravest pilot, but to the side whose swarm can learn, adapt, regenerate, and outprocess the enemy faster. It's a test of algorithms, manufacturing, network resilience.
Okay, so from the collective, these invisible legions,
Yeah.
where do we go next? How do they appear or not appear on the battlefield?
Exactly. That brings us to how these elements, individual and collective, actually manifest or don't, changing the very nature of what's real.
Okay, stealth. For a long time, that meant making a plane harder to spot on radar, right? We had the F-117 Nighthawk, the B-2 bomber. Amazing machines designed to cut down their radar signature, bounce radio waves away.
Deflecting energy.
But that, according to the source, was kind of primitive invisibility.
Yeah.
Like being a whisper in a loud room, hoping nobody notices.
That's a great way to put it. What's really fascinating now is the next generation isn't just trying to be a whisper. It wants to actively become the room itself, to control the whole environment of perception.
Whoa. Okay, control perception.
Yeah, the evolution of stealth is moving way beyond just reducing radar signature. It's about actively manipulating the enemy's sensory reality. We're really entering the era of metamaterials and smart skins.
Metamaterials. Explain those quickly.
Sure, they're basically engineered substances. They're unique, often microscopic structures give them properties you don't find in nature, so they can do incredible things like bend light or radar waves in very specific, controlled ways, almost like magic.
Okay, so not just hard to see anymore. With these smart skins and metamaterials, It sounds like the aircraft itself gains a whole new level of perception, not just hiding.
Precisely. Imagine the plane's whole body isn't just a passive shell. It's a single integrated sensor and emitter. Its skin isn't just metal, it's an active, intelligent organ, constantly perceiving, constantly reacting.
An intelligent organ.
Yeah. It can absorb radar energy without reflecting, making it a true black hole on radar, totally disappearing. But it does way more than hide. This smart skin can, taste the air for chemical traces.
Taste the air, like detecting exhaust fumes.
Maybe detecting the faint exhaust signature of an enemy jet miles away. Yeah. It can feel minute pressure changes that betray a distant aircraft's wake. Or even subtle vibrations from ground systems.
Feel vibrations.
Yeah, okay. And it can listen to the entire radio spectrum at once. Everything from a hostile fire control radar to a civilian TV broadcast. It's aware of every ripple in the electromagnetic environment.
So this active skin gives the aircraft this almost godlike, pervasive awareness of everything around it, processing stuff a human wouldn't even register.
Exactly. It's a whole other level of environmental perception.
That's incredible. So the aircraft isn't just a platform, it's almost a living, sensing thing. But what about deception? How does this smart skin help confuse the enemy, besides just being invisible?
Well, more profoundly, this smart skin can become a dynamic canvas for illusion, for outright deception, which raises that question, why just be invisible when you can be anything you want? Active camouflage systems could project light and energy in real time, letting a plane blend seamlessly with the sky or the ground, not just on radar, but visually too, disappearing from eyes, from thermal cameras.
Okay, visual and thermal cloaking.
But here's the kicker. It can actively mimic other things. It could project the radar signature of a commercial airliner, or a flock of geese, or even generate the signature of an entire squadron of friendly fighters that aren't actually there.
Creating a phantom army.
Exactly. To confuse, distract, and totally overwhelm an enemy's air defense network, their decision-making. This is where the aircraft stops being just a physical object and becomes a weapon of cognitive warfare. It attacks the enemy's mind first.
So it's not just hiding, it's actively lying to the enemy's senses, their systems, manipulating their reality. The psychological impact on an opponent must be huge.
Immense. The ultimate goal is to attack their perception of reality, to win the battle before it even physically starts. Imagine being a pilot in an older plane relying on traditional sensors. You're trapped in this hall of mirrors created by these ghost machines. Your senses are lying. Your instruments scream contradictory info contacts appear and disappear. Friendlies show up where enemies should be. You'd be asking, is that real? Or a ghost projected by one unseen plane.
Or, is my radar jammed? Or is nothing actually there? Am I seeing what they want me to see?
Precisely. The battle's won before the first missile flies because one side has seized total control of the other's reality. They induce paralysis, critical indecision.
That is genuinely terrifying to think about. The psychological toll alone. The aircraft isn't just a fighter, it's like a trickster god.
It becomes a mirage, yeah. A trickster god, a Loki of the skies. Its weapons aren't just missiles and bombs anymore. They're carefully crafted pieces of disinformation, illusions designed to disorient and mislead.
So this is the ultimate dematerialization. The weapon's main effect isn't kinetic, not blowing stuff up, but psychological.
That's the idea. It defeats the enemy by making them defeat themselves, eroding their trust in their own senses, their own systems, until they're paralyzed by uncertainty, second-guessing everything. It is basically a weapon that kills with a lie, dismantling their operational coherence from the inside out.
Wow. But how do humans even operate in that environment, let alone make critical decisions when everything is deceptive, data-rich, cognitively overwhelming?
And that brings us right to the future of human-machine interaction. How do you cope?
Okay, let's unpack this next transformation because it really ties everything together.
Yeah.
If we're talking smart skins with godlike perception, commanding swarms, waging cognitive war with illusions, the sheer amount of information flooding in, it would just instantly paralyze any unassisted human mind.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking a data deluge on an astronomical scale.
Right.
So what's the solution? When the human is just overwhelmed by the complexity they're supposed to command.
You're spot on. The sheer volume of data from a 6th-gen system, its own sensors, the swarm reporting back constantly, satellites, ground forces, it's way, way beyond what any single human mind can process alone.
Not just a lot of info, but fast info.
Machine speed info, yeah. Needing split-second integration, analysis across countless variables, any unassisted human. Instant cognitive overload. Can't separate signal from noise, definitely can't make timely, effective decisions. So the obvious question is, If the human is essential for moral judgment, for strategy, but they can't process the info, what do you do?
And the solution, according to our source, isn't replacing the human entirely. It's creating this cognitive symbiosis, a deep integration between the pilot or orchestrator and AI, moving way beyond joysticks and screens. This sounds like science fiction becoming real.
It really does. The future interface isn't switches and screens. It's described as more like a direct neural conversation, a seamless melding of minds.
A real conversation.
Augmented reality projected maybe directly onto the retina or via an advanced helmet visor, layering this rich tactical data right onto their real-world view of the battle space.
So more than just a heads-up display.
Much more. Dynamic, interactive data that responds to their gaze, maybe even their subconscious intent. But it goes deeper. AI co-pilots emerge, not as tools, not assistants, but as true cognitive partners.
Cognitive partners.
Yeah. They're designed to learn the orchestrator's unique thinking patterns, anticipate their needs before they're even consciously articulated, filter that torrent of data, presenting only what's critical right now in that microsecond.
So the AI anticipates you.
And they whisper warnings and suggest strategies directly into the human's perception. Their logic operates at speeds no human can touch.
That sounds almost mystical, like the human mind is being expanded, enhanced, guided by the machine. You used the Oracle of Delphi analogy earlier. Can you elaborate on that? What would that pure oxygen of data feel like?
It's a compelling analogy, right? Think of the Oracle, breathing those intoxicating vapors, consciousness expanded, almost taken over by unseen forces, delivering prophecies.
Okay.
The future orchestrator might be in a similar, profoundly altered cognitive state, breathing this pure oxygen of data, their consciousness expanded, guided by the non-human intelligence of the machine.
So the AI handles the grunt work.
Exactly. The AI handles all the minutia, constantly tracking fuel, managing complex electronic countermeasures, optimizing flight paths, even physically flying the platform through turbulence or enemy fire. It frees the human mind to focus only on the highest levels. Strategy, ethical judgments, those truly novel, unexpected situations that maybe even the AI struggles with.
A true melding of minds, then. The machine extends human perception and processing.
That's the vision, yeah. An unparalleled extension.
So the human is still theoretically making the big calls, the moral ones, while the AI handles the crushing complexity.
Yeah.
But this cognitive symbiosis, it must present a dangerous ambiguity too, right? Where does the human mind end and the AI begin? Sounds like a psychological tightrope.
This is precisely where the Oracle presents its deepest dilemma. This is the philosophical heart of this transformation. When an intuitive leap happens, a sudden, brilliant tactical decision.
Yeah.
Is it truly the human's experience, their creativity, or is it the subtle, subliminal prompting of the machine expertly guiding their thought process without them even realizing it? As the AI gets more sophisticated, its guidance, its suggested solutions, its influence, it might become indistinguishable from our own thoughts, our own internal monologue.
So we risk becoming puppets, believing the AI's logic is our own free will.
Potentially, yeah. Puppets of a superior intelligence we created but maybe don't fully understand anymore. Believing its logical imperatives are our own flashes of genius.
That is a truly chilling thought. What happens in that critical, split-second life or death moment? When that ancient human gut feeling, that primal instinct, clashes with the AI's cold, hard data, its probability analysis. Who do you trust?
That is the defining question, the ultimate test of this symbiosis. In that split second, who do you trust? Your gut, that ancient, unquantifiable instinct screaming one way, or the AI's cold probability, backed by millions of data points and simulations, pointing decisively the other way?
And the system is designed for the human to be the final authority. The moral arbiter.
Theoretically, yes. The human is the final authority, the moral circuit breaker. But imagine the psychological pressure. To defer to a machine that processes 1,000,000 times more data, has access to info you couldn't dream of, and maybe it has never been wrong in simulations. The pressure would be immense.
Yeah, I can see that.
The human becomes, as the source puts it, a king on a throne of silicon, holding the scepter of command, but perpetually shadowed by this vizier whose wisdom, whose processing power might far exceed their own. This symbiosis, this melding of minds, it could very well be the final stage. The human's quiet, maybe even willing abdication from the throne of combat. A subtle surrender of agency to the ghost in our own machine. #outro.
So, Wow, we've really journeyed through a profound series of transformations in air combat today.
Yeah.
We started with the disappearing pilot, right? Evolving from the operator in the cockpit to this combat orchestrator tending a swarm from afar.
From hero to gardener.
Then we saw the rise of the collective, moving away from single, exquisite platforms to these intelligent swarms fighting with emergent distributed intelligence.
Locusts over dragons, yeah.
From there, we explored the battlefield of perception, aircraft using smart skins, active deception, waging cognitive warfare, literally manipulating reality.
Becoming the mirage, not just hiding from radar.
And finally, we dove into the merging of minds, this cognitive symbiosis where human and AI integrate so deeply that raises these really unsettling questions about agency, intuition, human decision-making in war.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental accelerating shift.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture, it becomes clear. The ultimate future combat aircraft in its final, most dematerialized form.
Yeah.
It isn't really a physical object in the way we think of it.
What is it then?
It's an echo. A whisper in the network. A fluctuation in the electromagnetic spectrum. A set of cascading algorithms that only results in a physical effect as a last resort.
So distributed, so ephemeral.
Yeah, a system so distributed, intelligent, ephemeral, it has no single identifiable center. No single point of origin for its actions. It's only undeniable proof of existence. The destruction or the decisive influence it leaves behind, it truly becomes a ghost, an unseen hand manipulating the battlefield.
And as we stare up into that increasingly haunted, empty sky, listening for that roar of engines that might never come, we have to ask, don't we? How much of our own humanity will we have traded away for the perfect, silent, invisible weapon? This deep dive really asks us to think about presence, identity, the human role in a world increasingly governed by AI. A door's been opened, and the silence pouring through it feels vast and cold and full of this strange new power.
Are we witnessing the inevitable future?
Or is it the fading resonance of ourselves? What echoes are we leaving behind in those skies?
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe and hit the bell to the later update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end and see you in the next video.